Welcome to this video. I'm going to treat this video like a live. If you are family of Guatú Santana, then in Spanish we say mi pésame, right? So mi pésame para la familia y las amistades de Guatú Santana. So if you are here and you are wondering why am I making a video about Guatú Santana, well, first of all, something very sad happened to him, and I didn't know of this, but there is a important reason why I speak about Guatú Santana, and why would I speak about people of the indigenous Arawak and Taino community. Well, it's because, first of all, it's not just because something sad happened, but you have to remember that I am very grateful for these people. When I mean these people, I mean the people that do something for the indigenous community, people that that would do something. To me, that's huge. That's big, and that's why you should understand that that's one of the reasons why I would speak about maybe Guatú Santana, or why would I speak about Martín Casiva Opil Veguilla. Well, because they are part of my community, most especially from my own circle. So that's one of the reasons why I would speak about them. And then you have to remember that I am part of the indigenous community, but in what way, like what sort of role do I play in this community? So this channel is named ABAKETONEBORIKEJ. It's ABAKETONE. Like it sounds like a I at the end, or a double E in English. ABAKETONEBORIKEJ. That's how you say it. So there is a reason for that name. It's not just a name that I just randomly made for this channel. Well, it serves a purpose. And what's the purpose? Abaketone means documentation. So remember that always when you come to this channel. Why would I speak about something? Why would I record it? It's because that's what it means. When you say abaketone, well, that's the word for documentation, or maybe to record something or to write something. Guaracuya or Guaracuyo would be like something like social media, or maybe Guaracuyo is to remember of the light. So to me that would mean something that would have to do with data. But abaketone is documentation, but it also has to do with the trees. It also has to do with paper, and it also has to do with recording something. So abaketone is also a paper. It's also a book. So that is one of the meanings of ABAKETONEBORIKEJ. And then the second one, Borike, it pertains to the language. Borike means the language of the Boricua. So every time you see that a word has well, it means that it pertains to something, or that it pertains to that. For instance, well, if you see a whole bunch of the words that have E and then an X at the end, well, that is this that we are talking about. It would sound like guabansex to people when they read it, but it's not actually guabansex like that. It's guabanse. That's what they're trying to actually say. So anyways, this channel serves for documentation, so I explained that, right? And So that's why I would talk about Guatú, people like Guatú Santana, especially because they were from my circle, and they are very important for the full spectrum of the story. But that's why I would speak about Martin Casiva Opil and these type of people, because we record these people for historical purposes, everything that they have done in the indigenous community, and all of their achievements are historical. So one day people will talk about what happened with Agua Bana in the same manner as they would speak about him. They would speak about Martin Casiva, or maybe even Guatú Santana, because when we are talking about the indigenous Arawak or Iñeri or Taino history of Puerto Rico, which is the Boricua, that's the more general term for maybe all of them or all of these. So if you wonder why, well, now you know why. First of all, there's something important that I'm going to speak about, about this channel and its development, the creation story of this channel, basically, right? And then, like I said, where we honor people of all of the legends and all of the things and all of the indigenous achievements, all of the things they did for Puerto Rico, Boriqueñ, and all of those indigenous organizations and tribes. Well, little by little, I would like to document that. Well, first I have mentioned them in a way that explains why I do what I do. And in this case, it really does explain why I do what I do. Because I met Guatú Santana when I was because he was my friend. That's what I'm saying. Not super friend, I don't know him very well, like that, but he was still super important to maybe even the creation of this channel. Why? Well, now you're gonna know the story, because I'm going to say what happened. When I met him, we didn't know that we were part of this indigenous, I'm gonna say, I don't know, adventure or voyage or undertaking, right? So we both have had our own indigenous undertaking throughout our lives. I think he was Ni Taino of some place, but because I'm not affiliated totally, but I knew some people from Guatuamacu. So anyways, he had his achievements and his position of leadership within his own communities, which I just only viewed from afar, because like I always tell people, I only dive super deep into the language because I have always been studying onto language, and especially Taino language from a very young age. Like maybe I was a kid when I started studying and researching about all of that stuff. So like I said, I met him, and we didn't know that we were both part of this indigenous community, where what happens is that the indigenous what happens is that this Puerto Rican goes into a self-search, self-discovery, whether it's the family, whether it's the DNA and all that stuff, and you dive into the historical, and all of that thing happens. So you get so educated once you start to dive deep into the Taino indigenous knowledge. right? So I met him en el Morro. I met him literally, I mean, en el Viejo San Juan, but en el Morro. So I went to El Viejo San Juan with my friends. And we went to the Morro, and as we're walking through the Morro, we see some guys that were sitting down in some of the benches that were maybe around El Paseo de la Princesa, just near that region, the Paseo de la Princesa, de El Morro. And I see him playing a song in his guitar, and I'm a musician, and I love that sort of stuff. I love music. I love all that sort of stuff. So I was with my friends. He was with his friends, and we just joined up instantly because everybody that walks, maybe past them, maybe would sing with them. At that same time, Imael Etepa was playing the piano, so maybe they were friends also. Maybe it was that same moment, but I'm not sure. But there was one guy. Okay, just to remember. There was a guy that used to play the piano in El Viejo San Juan, and he was Imael Estepa. And I competed with him in one of the singing competitions that came to, I don't remember, but I went or something. I don't know if I exactly competed, but I know that I did some type of participation. But I went to Idol Puerto Rico once. And I went to La Banda. So in La Banda, I actually competed and reached like the third stage within the building. But in La Voz, I maybe had a problem with my age. I was like 17, right? Because it was at that same time. And Imael Estepa was maybe with him or in separate times. It probably was separate times, but I'm not sure. But then he got a little bit famous because he got really far, and it wasn't Objetivo Fama, it was like Idol Puerto Rico for sure, or something like that. And he got into the competition, into the live competition, and he got far, and he got a lot of followers and a lot of views. And I got a lot of inspiration of singing from Imael Estepa because he looks like a big guy, right? He looks so big. No offense, but there's a merit into what I'm gonna say, that he's bigger than me, but he could sing like if he's smaller than me. So he had that voice that he could probably reach higher tones, but at the higher notes. And at the time, I wasn't that very confident, but I could hit the higher notes, but I wasn't that confident. So just seeing these people gave me a lot of confidence. So remember that everything in this channel, everything that I'm trying to do is always positive. I sometimes speak very, I have to defend my arguments. So, well, sometimes facts sound mean sometimes, but I don't mean that. But I am always looking for a peaceful moment of tranquility and harmony among you and me and this whole community, especially the Puerto Rican indigenous community. That's just so full of hope, right? Always learning, always digging. It's amazing. So, like I was saying, so then there was Guatú Santana, and he was also from, just like Imael Estepa, he was in the benches, and he didn't know that I was from this community. I had already begun my Taino research. I didn't know I was Taino because I didn't do no DNA test until much later, like 10 years after that. I didn't care. I thought I was like 5% indigenous Taino of Puerto Rico, and I even had thoughts, thinking such as, oh, maybe I'm not. I literally had those thoughts. But no matter how much I would, well, in the end I came out to be around the 21%, 22. 23% indigenous Taino range, but one test says that I'm around 27% indigenous Taino of Puerto Rico. So it's around 20, I would say it's around maybe 24 or 25. That's pretty high for, especially from what I was thinking. But like I said, no matter the level of indigenous Taino of Puerto Rico that I would have, or that I would think that I would have, that doesn't take away how much I would love a people or a community or their culture. Because if I love the gypsies, and then you go like, oh, but why you love the gypsies so much if you're not gypsy? Well, I love the gypsies. I don't care how much I'm not a gypsy, but I love their culture. How can you judge me for that, right? It's just an example. Well, that happened to me with the indigenous Taino of, sorry, that happened to me with the indigenous Taino of Puerto Rico, where people just come to me and say, hey, yo, what's up? Like, you're not indigenous. Like, and I'm like, I know I'm not indigenous totally, but I'm Boricua, and we harbor strong indigenous Taino traits, strong Taino blood. That's my family. But even deeper than that, I don't care I didn't care if I had it or not. To me that didn't make a difference. So now that I have it, it gives me that even more right. But especially that nobody should care about what somebody does. Like, if I practice indigenous culture, then I practice indigenous culture. And people, just to add, like, people have come here like, oh, but where's your Afro Boricua flow? What's up? Like, why don't you wear it? And these people don't even know me. Like, I would bet these people don't even know nothing of Swahili. And I've begun to study Swahili in the past. You don't know me to say that I don't know or don't practice nothing about my African culture. You don't know that I used to actually practice poesía negroide a long time ago. When I met Guatú Santana, I was like 17 or 18. You have to understand that now I'm like 33. I've gone through all of the culture of Puerto Rico, all of the teachings, and now, so that just adds onto that. But Guatú Santana, he was singing maybe some Luis Fonsi song. Yeah. It was Te quiero hoy, quiero abrir el corazón, una ventana. That one, yeah. Like, I think if it's not that one, then he was singing some Sin Bandera song. That's what we were singing. So you can imagine that. That's what. That was super popular when I was like 17. A lot of people were into that, and that's how that's how I learned how to sing. I mean, I don't know how to sing, but that's how I practiced how to sing. Like with singers like Luis Fonsi and Sin Bandera back in the early 2000. Just practicing. But so Guatú Santana was playing those songs. There was a lot of couples passing by, a lot of Puerto Rican, people just passing by El Paseo de la Princesa and the walls of El Morro at night. It's pretty chill, it's it's actually not that bad, so that's how I met him. But now on this part, I'm gonna talk about why is he so important to, because I don't know him that much, but he is important. He is pertinent to this channel, and this is the thing that this just happened, and I just recently announced that I did a story. I did a story that I wrote as a writer. I've been years trying to finish this freaking story. So I did this story finally, and there's a character named Guatú in my story. He's Guatú, which means fire. But It's not that I named him Guatú just because fire. No, that's actually Guatú Santana in my story. And if you read my story, and if you like one of his family members, or you care for Guatú Santana, well, I do too. Like, he's my friend. But with something that I do with writing, I like to transform people from antagonists into like heroes, or like this mature character after all of these arcs, all of these development arcs, where the character learned so many things and a whole bunch of things happen, where they go from being bad or something to being totally transformed person. And I really love to do that. I love that. When I write, and when I have seen a whole bunch of shows and a whole bunch of series, I see that and I want to do that. So that's something that I do, no matter how good the person was maybe in real life. If I put them in my story, it's just for entertainment, but I might exaggerate a whole bunch of little bad things and tweak it so it could be that much more entertaining. So now that you know that, you could be chill that in the future this character will have a nice development. And you know, like, that's how heroes in the stories are made. So I'm gonna talk about more in the part 2 onto that, onto the fire of Amon, and that in my story, the fire of Amon, Guatú Santana is there. So before I leave, I want to give you guys some more insight. So this is Guatú, a character from my story. I made this story, I finished it by June, and then months after this happens. So sadly, but yeah, so he's not a bad character, he's just an antagonist. Whether it's for competition or for whichever reason, well, he's just an antagonist. But further in the future, this character will have further development. Thank you.